The next thing we're gonna be talking about, chat, is, oh boy, Capcom. Mainly gonna be our boy right here. Look at this like handsome fucking old ass man, Hideaki Itsuno. For those that don't know, Itsuno, he is a veteran and legacy like alumni Capcom employee, right? He did games like Devil May Cry, he did Dragon's Dogma, he did Rival Schools, he did Power Stone, he did Capcom vs SNK 2, right? He is like and what was it in college? Alum? In like in the field of games that like he worked on, and some of the more and some of those like games are like treasured like icon IPs everywhere, you know? Like it's really like dope. His portfolio is. We got word a few months ago, or I think like a year ago, that Itsuno suddenly left Capcom. And he's going to be branching out and he's going to be doing his own company. We also got word like sometime like after that Itsuno is going to be making his studio name, and it's Lightspeed Studios. Capcom usually has like a tradition of like these alumni producers and directors leaving like the studio, right? Hideaki Itsuno, Shinji Mikami, the guy who made Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2, but then made Tango Gameworks and was executive producer and director of games like Evil Within 1, Evil Within 2. He was also EP in Hi-Fi Rush. Then there's Hideki Kamiya, right? The man, the myth, the legend, right? Left Capcom, made Clover Studios, made some of the most baller games there is, like Okami and Beautiful Joe and God Hand. Then made his own studio called Platinum Games, which is Platinum is one of my favorite fucking companies today because they made Bayonetta, Wonderful 101, Metal Gear Rising, and the company's portfolio goes on, right? And then came back to Capcom to make Okami sequel, the untitled what was it? The Okami sequel. Didn't get like a full title yet because they're still working on their studio, from what I've been hearing. But Capcom has like a track record of all of these like most of them are good, some of them are bad. Like what's one character that's like bad? Oh, the guy who made Mega Man. Who was it? Keiji Inafune, who made like Mega Man. There's also like Ono that left. Yoshinori Ono that left. Legendary like GOAT directors, like, you know, people that have like worked on, you know, some of Capcom's like portfolio games leaving, right? And Itsuno was like one of them. So let's go like check out this interview. Itsuno-san discusses Lightspeed Studios and its plans for a AAA action game. And there's some very like dicey info on like what happened to like Itsuno. Why did he leave Capcom? You know, things like that. Why did he venture out to this like new world? For me, based on my age, this is my last chance because his like. So the thing is that I was like reading through silently. Sorry. Itsuno left right after Dragon's Dogma 2, and Itsuno wanted to leave with like that type of like high note because he was like, okay, Capcom wanted him to make DMC5, which he thought was an impossible task, and so he reluctantly said, okay, I'll make DMC5 as long as I get to make Dragon's Dogma 2. Capcom said agreed, yeah. For Capcom, creating Devil May Cry and Dragon's Dogma is the top priority, and keeping in mind that making a game takes 4 or 5 years, this might be my last big opportunity. Yup. Before you realize you're working on making Devil May Cry 6 or 7, it's not like I don't want to make them, I do, but it's hard to balance the time it takes with the personal satisfaction of making them with Devil May Cry. I already did what I wanted to make. Very few studios in Japan are taking the challenge of building original AAA IPs from scratch. That is exactly what they're doing. What's Capcom doing that's like a AAA budget? Oh, Pragmata. That's like their original, that's like Capcom's original game that they are planning on doing, that they are planning on launching for the next year, right? So it's cool. I'm still calling it, right? That like that little girl will remind the astronaut of his like daughter who passed away like on Earth or some shit, and they developed like a father-daughter like bond with this AI robot that I found in space or some shit. I'm calling it like the father syndrome or some shit like that. Most companies seem to be avoiding AAA budget space right now due to market volatility. Yeah. The goal of the studio is to create a game, an IP for consoles. Leave that unless you make at a AAA quality level, it doesn't become even an option for the users. I thought about creating a game with AAA quality. It becomes the first choice for players, even with the AAA games or several budgets. Yeah, talking about the woes of AAA. My style of making the games is, first of all, to release the game. We have a plan and we try not to go over the budget. Now, if you have the budget, the release gets delayed. It's better to work with just the right amount in my experience. Yeah. You said you're making a Japanese style action game. What defines a Japanese style? Strong animation, character design, creativity, and high skills ceiling. Okay. You mentioned 3 hires in your announcement today. Devil May Cry writer Toshihiro Nakakawa, Daigo Ikeno, Bangus? Bro, like, what's Itsuno like doing? Yo, how many drinks he's been like sipping with these homies, bro? These are like, you know, goats after goats. Daigo Ikeno made like the art for Third Strike, and Bangus is literal fucking goat of like the Capcom art space. Bangus made these custom character icons, Chad. Like, this is the fucking character select screen for MVCI. All of the fucking art for MVC 1, MVC 2. He continued to make art for Street Fighter 5, right? Like, this guy is a legend in his craft. Wow. It's good to be able to work with people whom I trust, like Mr. Nakakawa. Ikeno-san is also participating as an art director this time, and Bengus has a very high level of understanding and is jeez, bro. Crazy. It's been 6 years since you released your last character action game, Devil May Cry 5. Now that you're returning to the genre, have you taken any learnings from action games since then? Any single player games were released, leaving aside whether they were a hit or not. I don't have any particular thoughts about the games of that style. They were many games with a style between Dark Souls and Devil May Cry, but there was nothing too surprising. I got more impacted by games outside of that range, like the recent Indiana Jones game. Yo, I haven't like played Indiana Jones. I should, but that's crazy that Itsuno respected like Indiana Jones or mentioned Indiana Jones. That must be really good. I definitely gotta like try it out. It seems like increasingly every action is a Souls-like. As much as like I have this conversation with Dan. He doesn't think so. Bruh. But the reporter seems to think so. Are you aware of any oversaturation in the genre? And is that something that puts you off in entering it? And create a company to make a high-end version of existing games with a similar gameplay, story, or character design. I came to Lightspeed Studio to create an action game with a different value. Smart answer. I like that. Not exactly answering it, but it's like, let's focus on Lightspeed. This is the first time you held an interview since leaving Capcom, so why did you decide it was the right time to leave after 30 years of tenure? Based on my age, this is my last chance. Man is like, how old is Itsuno? 60 years old? How do you reflect on Dragon's Dogma 2? Critically, it was very well received, but there were some divisive reactions for some fans. I remember like DD2, and I remember like my mod James talking about like DD2. It was kind of like meh, you know? There should have been like some improvements like here and there, but it was still an overall like a meh, you know? It didn't do that great. There was a lot of like, you know, public reception for DD2. Like a lot of dudes were really like happy about DD2, but it got like a good first month to like pop off, but then after that pop off, it was just slowly like dialed down. So if it sells at this level, all good. Meaning that if the game was loved by so many, it's all good. Itsuno doesn't mind. as long as you get to make what he made. I made the game not like a Nintendo one to be liked by all the people, but for a certain type of audience. So it's normal if some people outside that target audience don't like the game. Wow, said what I was like thinking. Would you like to work on another fighting game or RPG in the future? For example, you have said in the past that you'd like to make another Capcom versus SNK. And Itsuno said, I do want to make a fighting game like Capcom versus SNK, but now I'm either Capcom nor SNK. If they license it to me though, I want to make a Capcom versus SNK 3. I want to make a fighting game, and it's at the top of my list of games I want to make. Itsuno acknowledging that he wants to make a CVS 3, right? All the hopes and prayers for a CVS 3, and Itsuno wants to like make it, but he's at another studio. Capcom is enjoying one of the most successful periods in its history, but do you think it'll become the victim of its success if, like you, it doesn't give its experienced creators more freedom to create wholly original games? I'm 55 years old and I happen to get this opportunity for young people working on a sequel. This is a great experience they can learn a lot and use in creating the next games. The people working on the sequels right now are extremely good, so the young people can learn from them. A little bit of background history behind this, because like, yeah, this also brought like my mind into like memory, right? So again, Itsuno left Capcom, right? It was like suddenly, but there was a little bit of like implication behind this, right? It's not like suddenly like, I got old, I'm tired, peace out bitches, or some shit like that. No, there's like something behind it, and that was because probably head honcho Capcom, I mean, I like Capcom, but they're still like a company at the end of the day. They were harassing, well, not technically harassing, but it could be harassing to the point of Itsuno leaving Capcom. The company harassed Itsuno to make a new Devil May Cry because, you know, Devil May Cry 5 sold really well. Dragon's Dogma was good in its own like right, and Itsuno was happy for that. So Capcom was like, hey, can you make Devil May Cry 6 or Devil May Cry 7? Please, we want you to stay in here pretty please. And Itsuno's like, nah, fuck that. You guys are like bossing me around. You guys are like pressing me with so much like material just to like make a game. Peace out, bitches. Hence, like the next question. You're creating an original game and presumably Capcom will continue the Devil May Cry series. Will it be strange competing with that? I'm extremely proud of DMC5, and I don't think I could improve on it. So competing with the new IP is going to be hard. But at the same time, after making DMC4, I thought it was going to be impossible to create something better, and I think I managed that with DMC5. That was like the impossible task for Itsuno. Like DMC5 was like literally like a miracle wish, you know? Who knew that DMC5 was going to be so fucking good? Some problems like here and there, like, you know, on my like part, but Devil May Cry was really received well. Like, goddamn. It was the same thing with Dragon's Dogma 2. I thought it would be impossible to make something better than the first one, so who knows. This is where like a lot of, you know, fan implication came in for what was it? Devil May Cry, because everybody knows Itsuno for the Devil May Cry man. Like, that's the GOAT right there. That's the boy. He made Devil May Cry to what it is, you know, today, right? That's the GOAT right there. And for him to answer, like, him leaving, like, Capcom, obviously, that was, like, the background, and admitting that, like, I don't think there's ever any way to improve on DMC5, left a lot of, like, fan implication that, like, oh, DMC is dead. DMC is dead. It stopped with 5, and there's not gonna be, like, a DMC 6 or 7. Objectively, like, so, because, like, he is the guy who is, like, the brains of the organization. Like, he is the director of DMC, right? He is like the head honcho. But I don't think like DMC, you know, is dead. They will find like some way to, you know, make DMC like 6 or some shit like that. Like Itsuno said, like new hires, new writers, new program designers, right? They definitely could like learn a lot of lessons from like the old guard. as long as it's not like a Tekken situation, right? Where they just say like fuck it to the wind and Capcom hires all the old dudes back. So I think DMC6 can still like happen, but it's going to be way different from the vision that what Itsuno has made. And we don't know what the new vision or the youngin is going to be because we don't know what it is yet. So it's not like doom and gloom for the Devil May Cry series. Rather, we just don't know what it is. We're just confused. We're anxious. We had like other Devil May Cries before, like albeit one by Adi Shankar, and his ass ruined the fucking story, making it like political bullshit. And then we had like Ninja Theory, which is not so political bullshit, but it had like good narrative because Ninja Theory has like really good narrative drives. Hence like Hellblade and Hellblade 2 Senua's Sacrifice. Those guys are really good for that like type of like field, you know? So you could definitely like do it. Did you leave any advice for the Devil May Cry team when you left? I didn't give any, but at a personal level, I wish good luck. That's the Itsuno interview of like what are his like big like ambitions going forward now that he's made his own studio, Lightspeed Studios, things like that. A lot of it just like has some contextual evidence of like his stay at Capcom and why he moved to his new studio, Lightspeed Studios. A lot of like good promise for his studio, having like Bengus and Ikeno and Mori Hitoshi, right? As or what was like the name? Toshihiro Nakakawa. But he's coming on like his own, you know? That's like good shit on like Itsuno. But it also like a contextual evidence look at like Capcom that like they were like forcing something down like his throat, and Itsuno was like, I'm not having that anymore. It's like Capcom, yeah, they're not that far off to do that. I mean, they did like force, you know, Ifune to be the head honcho, and Ifune made some strange fucking calls through like Ono and stuff like that. Capcom, as much as, you know, like I praise like Capcom, they do have like some shitty moments, right? You know, on like multiple occasions. A lot of them are many to like count. I can't like, recall them, but they have made those shitty mistakes before, right? So it's cool that like Itsuno's like coming up on his own, and he has like an ambition to make like a AAA like action game, something that's like well, unique and original. It would be something not Expedition 33, but also conceptually Expedition 33. Where like what I mean is that Expedition 33 is like your standard like, you know, JRPG like tactics, not tactics, but it's like JRPG turn-based game. But it released in a myriad in the video game industry that like everyone wanted to be like Souls-like, you know, things like that. A lot of like action games are like highly produced, highly budgeted, and the studio behind Expedition 33 are ex-Ubisoft devs that are like pure passion seekers that wanted to make like a JRPG-esque game with a really cool story, a really cool soundtrack, and things like that. And it definitely like popped off for them, right? Expedition 33 is a well-beloved game. I haven't played it per se because, you know, I mean, I did play turn-based JRPGs and they're not my cup of tea. Itsuno wants to make like an original IP that's like conceptually Expedition 33 in the sense that like it wants to branch away from sort of like the corporate like woes and isms of that what comes with a AAA budget like game. A lot of like graphics, a lot of like budget and things like that, you know? So he wants to make the game that's like uniquely individual, but also uniquely what was it? He wants to make the game as unique as possible, but also like, you know, a big blockbuster, like something that's like a, you know, a shadow, like something that's like appeared like out of nowhere. I don't think there was like any like, you know, hype press for Expedition 33. No, it was just like, oh, okay, it just like dropped and people loved it immediately. So something along like those lines, that what Itsuno really like wants to do, and he wants to do something like a like a excuse me, sorry, like a character action game, something that's like, you know, similar to like his work experience from like Devil May Cry and things like that. He did say he wanted to like make a fighting game, but we know that's not gonna happen unless he's like licensed, unless he's licensed by or licensed by Capcom to do like, you know, like let's say freelance work or stuff like that. I don't think anytime soon. It would be funny if he made like his own take of like a fighting game, you know, since this guy made like Rival Schools and Power Stone and CVS 2, very unique fighting games, different from like each other, right? They're not like uniform in any way, shape, or fashion. I mean, Power Stone is like, you know, a Smash kind of like game with like items and whatnot, but it still like counts as like it's a fighting game. A lot of like stuff to like unpack here. Basically, yeah, like he's moving up and up with the world. He's starting his own like grassroots studio. He has like high ambition, but he also shared what's been going down with like Capcom during his stay before his, you know, eventual like resignation. Good overall for like him. Don't know what the future is for like, you know, Capcom specifically for games like, let's say, Devil May Cry or Rival Schools or CVS, things like that. Time will only like tell what will happen, right?